Every year, Guild Wars 2 quietly refuses to die. While other MMOs chase massive overhauls and flashy relaunches, Guild Wars 2 just keeps existing, and somehow it keeps pulling players back in. I've spent the past months diving back into Tyria, and today we're breaking down exactly where the game stands, the good, the bad, and who this MMO is actually for. Unfortunately, right now, there's no clear way to estimate the peak active players. However, many sites average somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 100,000 peak active players. Taking a look at the Steam charts, you will see that the game saw a 30% increase with its most recent expansion release of the Visions of Eternity, and other noticeable jumps of 20%, 25%, and 20% for the months of June, July, and August, respectively, likely a result of the marketing for the expansion. It's worth noting that the player activity has remained strong over the years, even peaking, at least on Steam, just this last November. Now, let's start with what Guild Wars 2 continues to absolutely nail: respecting your time. Guild Wars 2 still doesn't require a subscription. Your gear never becomes useless, and you're not forced into a constant treadmill just to stay relevant. It's worth noting, none of the expansions really lock you out of meta builds. All of the core specializations, they all do well enough in your open world metas and in PvP and world versus world. You're just not going to have access to the new maps, the new elite specs, and so on and so forth. Over the years, though, ArenaNet has doubled down on what makes the game unique. Open world events that feel alive, meta maps that reward coordination instead of raw DPS, and content that encourages cooperation rather than competition. Whether you're a casual player hopping in after work or a veteran chasing legendary gear, Guild Wars 2 lets you play at your own pace, and that's something most MMOs still struggle with. As stated before, the game just received its 6th expansion, centered on what seems to be the Inquest in the Isles of Castora, which brought with it some familiar updates, including a new mastery line centered around the Skimmer mount, new legendary weapons, and an Aqua Breather, new raid encounters, 4 new zones, 2 on release and 2 later on, and a surprise return of elite specializations. Now, the past 2 expansions had strayed away from new elite specs, focusing on other aspects of the game. However, their return was highly anticipated. With it brought the Guardian's Luminary, accessing the Radiant Forge, which temporarily replaces the weapon skills with Radiant weapon abilities that grant lingering effects and stances, the Revenant's Conduit, which allows the access to legendary entity Raza and brings a new skill called Cosmic Wisdom, which gives unique buffs based on the legend you channel, the Warrior's Paragon, which allows chance and a much needed support identity, the Ranger's Gale Shot, which gives access to the Cyclone Bow, further delving into the class's Ranger identity, the Engineer's Amalgam, which replaces the tool belt with morph skills, allowing access to offensive or supportive skills and further enhancing them with an evolve skill, the Thief's Antiquary, which replaces Steal with Pilfer, summoning a script to grab random artifacts, which can be used as offensive, defensive, or utility skills. The Elementalist's Evoker, which selects a main element and gains a corresponding familiar that uses basic and empowered attacks. The Mesmer's Troubadour, which replaces illusions with musical notes, providing a heavy support playstyle. And finally, the Necromancer's Ritualist, which allows you to summon spirits, providing CC, damage, or support and healing. All the new elite specs seem to have done a wonderful job maintaining class identity while providing completely new playstyles or filling niches for their respective classes that were previously unavailable. For example, a Warrior's support playstyle was certainly lacking before the Paragon, and now Warriors have a whole new elite spec dedicated to a support playstyle. It's worth noting that every single new elite spec, with the exception of the Antiquary, looks amazing. All of them have a great identity and just seem really enjoyable to play and are just unique and cool in their own way. Guild Wars 2 World remains one of its strongest selling points. You're not just grinding quests, you're participating in a living world that reacts, evolves, and occasionally just goes completely off the rails. Tyria feels handcrafted, dense, and full of personality. Every new map has its own identity, and even years later, older zones don't feel irrelevant. Most of this is a result of the game's daily systems, which bring you back to old maps or metas, much of which are still relevant due to the game's horizontal progression. To this day, you will still see huge squads running metas in the Heart of Thorns, the game's first expansion from over a decade ago. The story over the past year has unfortunately become somewhat stagnant, especially since the conclusion of the Elder Dragon cycle, which in my opinion was some of the best storytelling ever. Nonetheless, it still remains top tier among MMOs. The developers have done a wonderful job incorporating the story to the open world as well. Oftentimes, the open world events are a direct inspiration of what happened in the story, either as a similar breakdown of how you, the commander, did something, or alternatively functioning as what the commander's allies did in the story. You will also find that some of the new raids and strike missions are pulled directly from the story itself. Speaking of raids and strike missions, starting February 3rd, ArenaNet is completely overhauling their raid system. Traditional raid wings and strike missions are now unified into a single raid encounter system, all accessible through a brand new raid UI and looking for a group, allowing you to jump straight into individual bosses, move between encounters without reloading maps, and manage everything far more smoothly. Rewards are also getting a major cleanup. Profit shards are gone, everything now uses magnetite shards, the weekly cap is higher, and the rewards are standardized across raid difficulties. There are also new raid exclusive rewards, including a Skyscale skin, plus new achievements, daily raid bounties, and challenge mode leaderboards. And finally, the new raid encounter from the most recent expansion launches on February 3rd, which is challenge mode dropping just a few weeks later. Long story short, raids are more accessible, faster to get into, and way more rewarding. Combat is where Guild Wars 2 still feels different, even after all these years. The game doesn't have a traditional holy trinity, rather allows every class an option to play nearly any role. Every class has access to certain weapons that will change your main skills, and then a few elite specializations that completely change the identity of the class. For example, I play Ranger, which has an elite spec called Druid that excels in healing and buffing allies. I'll often use this when I'm doing raids or world versus world. It also has a different elite spec called Soulbeast that allows you to merge with your pet and typically encourages a DPS playstyle. The game's combat offers a unique twist in the form of combo fields and finishers, which allows the players to create a combo field and then perform specific finishers which act with that field. For example, one player can create a fire field and then the same player or another can use that field in combination with a blast finisher to provide might to nearby allies, which increases your damage. In addition to the combos, another interesting system is the boons and conditions system, essentially buffs and debuffs. These boons and conditions make or break every interaction in the game, and boons are a must for raids, PvP, or even the open world. Properly timing a multitude of boons as well as their individual timers can be very difficult and often separate the newer players from the veterans. Additionally, conditions allow a completely different playstyle for DPS builds, allowing you to deal damage over time rather than instantly. Guild Wars 2 itself really doesn't start until the endgame, which isn't about chasing higher item levels or getting stronger. It's more about doing what you genuinely enjoy to do and setting your own goals. All low-level maps will scale your character down so you can still enjoy all the content with similar difficulty, allowing plenty of repeatable content, or others will focus on crafting legendaries, fashion wars, raids and strike missions, world versus world, PvP, or just casually enjoying the open world metas. The game's PvP systems are wonderful. It offers structured PvP with both unranked and ranked games using a party of 5 players, or you can delve into world versus world, which is essentially a server versus server mode with multiple maps and capture objectives. In world versus world, you can play as a solo, a small group, or a massive Zerg, each offering different playstyles, all which can affect the server's overall score and have their own individual impacts. It's worth noting that the world versus world content has been some of the most enjoyable large-scale PvP I've ever done in any game, and has a very complex system and plenty of dedicated guilds for just world versus world if that's something you'd like to do. So, is Guild Wars 2 worth playing in 2026? If you want a subscription-free MMO that respects your time, offers incredible open world content, and lets you play how you want to, absolutely. Guild Wars 2 isn't trying to be the biggest MMO anymore. That's exactly why it works. It creates an enjoyable atmosphere, perfectly curated for its audience, and I think that's all you can ask for. Let me know in the comments, are you still playing Guild Wars 2? What are your thoughts on the game? And if you're enjoying my content, consider hitting the like and subscribe button so you can follow along for more.